Okay, everyone, we're going to get started here on the Sprinkler Putting Out the Fire webinar. Thank you for joining again. We're going to be talking about Google and Wildfire and migration and a whole bunch of exciting stuff here with Sprinkler. Thank you for joining again. So first, let me introduce myself and my colleague here. My name is Jerome Pinot. I am Director of Product Marketing at Sprinkler. And today we're also joined by Silky Kadawat, a Senior Product Analyst at Sprinkler, who is also a superwoman of social apps, ergo the little logo there. And she's been involved in many transitions and many migrations from various vendors to Sprinkler for social apps in general. So she'll be joining us on the technical side. A little bit on my background. Before my Sprinkler life, I was the social strategist for Autodesk for the Global Customer Service and Support Division. So in terms of large-scale social media experience, social apps, and all sorts of interesting things like that, I do have a little bit of experience that might be relevant here. So I just thought we would talk to you folks about migration. Given what happened recently, here's the agenda for our webinar today. What are we going to talk about? I think first we should talk about the market impact of Google's decision to sunset Wildfire in 2015, as you all know. Then we'll talk about migration, what it takes to migrate. We've actually come up with a quick and simple checklist for migration, having done so many at Sprinkler. And we thought it'd be interesting to share this with you in terms of trying to give you a little bit of a heads up on what it takes to migrate in general. And then we'll talk about blessings in disguise and what it means when you migrate to a Sprinkler solution. So I think if we look at the overall state of the market, right, so what happened with Wildfire and Google sunsetting that, I think it's in line with a couple of things that, have been pain points in the industry lately. One of the major pain points is the fact that, social enablement is taking place through many different tools. Many different tools are cobbled together by big brands in order to implement their social initiatives. And that gets to be a little bit complicated. There's a lot of tools. There's a lot of different things to deal with. There's data all over the place. It's just not simple. It's just not integrated. Truth be told, because of this, it also gets very expensive to do social. Again, many tools, some tools are sunsetted, some tools come up, new tools come up on the market. You got to keep track of those. You got to pay different things. The whole cost model itself is not only high, but also complicated. And quite honestly, as is quite apparent with what happened with Google and Wildfire, it's a little bit risky. The tires can come off. One day a tool can disappear. One day a tool can be absorbed by another company whose main business model may not be social enablement. It might be something else. And so they might not be committed entirely to social enablement, and they acquire your tool, and God knows what happens after that. So thinking about that a little bit in the context of the market at large, this probably sounds familiar to a lot of you folks out there, but given the context I just described, I think, we all ask ourselves the same types of questions until, the folks like us who are involved in large-scale, at-scale social media efforts. How do you manage all these tools? How do you consolidate the data that comes from all these tools? User data, historical data, that's certainly not an easy task. It certainly wasn't easy when I was doing this at Autodesk and talking to a lot of my peers in the industry. We all pretty much have the same pain points, right? In terms of vendors, of course, you always wonder, will this vendor be around? Will he take care of me? Will he make modifications to the tool that cater to my particular needs? What happens if I pick the wrong tool? There are clearly career implications in making these kinds of decisions when you're doing social at a large brand. You absolutely have questions about, all these tools, which ones are best suited to support our strategic goals. Am I looking to do listening? Am I looking to do more operational work, more engagement work? What about content? Will the platform that you pick, or the platforms or the tools that you pick, will they grow with you, or will they just peter out after X amount of volume? And can multiple departments in the enterprise use it? or is this a tool that's only going to be used by a very few number of silos in the company, like maybe just marketing? But can it be used by marketing as well as HR, as well as sales, as well as legal and customer support? And then will it work with the existing systems that I have so that my investment in these systems is not going to waste, namely CRM systems, for example, ERP, maybe content management systems. So these are all the types of questions that, you know, I think what happened with Wildfire kind of tend to, again, bubble up to the surface given the context of big league social in the past few years. And so what's the person to do about that? And you know, especially when something like Wildfire happens and a tool is sunsetted. Now, on top of all these issues, you also have to worry about migration issues, right? So now you're thinking about, well, geez, you know, so how frustrating is this going to be? How hard is it going to be to migrate my data? Am I going to lose any of the functionality I'm used to? What about the time I invested in that tool? Now that it's going to be sunsetted or acquired or whatever, did I waste my time? And will this impact my productivity, my team's productivity? So on top of everything else, you know, these are questions that a lot of people have had, and questions that a lot of clients have called us with, you know, ever since the Google announcement, and very legitimate questions. So I think what we bring to the table in terms of what would, you know, Sprinkler, we have a distinct advantage in the fact that we've actually done this many times. We've done migration. So we've done 150 plus migrations across multiple brands. This is just a few examples here, major brands. So we have a certain legacy experience and a certain expertise that we thought we might share with you, just advisory, just to share the knowledge, share the love, so to speak, on what it takes to migrate, because we've done it for many clients, not Wildfire or specifically, but from other vendors as well. And we've kind of put together a simple track, a checklist, if you wish, of steps that we've observed in our experience that are the necessary steps to go through in order to do and think about migration as a whole in an enterprise setting. And so, in a nutshell, here we go. Migration checklist, it's actually an 8-step checklist that takes you from initial discovery of what needs to be done to final synchronization and launch of your social applications. Starting first with discovery, asset gathering, figuring out your dependencies, figuring out what you need to do, if anything, with existing metrics you may have had in a legacy tool, scoping the work, creating the work, installing and testing the work, and synchronizing with the existing applications, legacy applications, and then finally launching the social application. Along these lines are many points we call milestones that are huddling points, so to speak, with a client, which are important in this whole migration process, which is a very generic process in software, actually, not just related to migrating social apps per se. So there's knowledge out there on how to do these things. I'm going to go through these steps fairly quickly. There is a full checklist that we will be making available to anyone on demand. So if this goes a little fast, no worries. We will have all this available for you guys. But I do want to take you through that fairly quickly and efficiently. The discovery step, basically, so we sit with the client and we figure out, okay, so what are the pages, what are all the microsites that you may want to convert? Do you want to port all of them? Is there an order of priorities? Where are they? Get a screenshot of all existing applications that need to be migrated. And then clarification milestones, sit down with the client and clarify any functionality questions and prioritize as well. And that's where the little red flag comes in. These are milestone points of sit down with the client, so to speak, and huddle around, okay, where are we now? What are we doing? Are we on the right track? And on the bottom of the slide, you'll see the takeaway points, so to speak. So not forget image, albums, video, playlists, text questions, etc., as assets that need to be ported. There's actually a large list of these, and the devil's in the detail as usual, and it's important to make sure that every single type of content involved in this particular migration is accounted for. On the asset gathering side, that's fairly straightforward in a way. You fetch all assets as needed, at least as many as you can automatically from provided URLs and third-party hosted iframes, for example. And some of these assets sometimes need to be provided directly from the client. So that's a kind of a step B on a two-step process of asset gathering here. Just be aware that the process can be long and tedious for clients, so you need to be prepared for significant back and forth on that particular stage, and that's okay. But it's just good to know that ahead of time. In our experience, that's pretty much what's occurred. Dependencies, pretty important. Migrate any third-party app or service. There are dependencies within apps that need to be migrated and ported as well. So these need to be flushed out early on in the game to avoid unpleasant surprises in the future. If you migrate a component and this component depends on another component that wasn't properly handled, you're going to have a bit of a delay there. So that's an important phase of the pipeline at step 3, dependencies. Legacy metrics, as I briefly mentioned before, that's a really crucial step for a lot of folks, obviously, because they have invested in existing tools like Wildfire, user data. They have historical data. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, this information will need to be ported because it's actually rather precious. So clearly, this is something that needs to be flushed out, and sometimes data has to be acquired or obtained from the client, obviously, in the proper schema, so we can absorb it into a sprinkler and get them going seamlessly, especially when porting an application or social app that's actually live, like a contest or something like that. So if you're doing that in the middle of the application running, it's like changing an engine on a flying aircraft. So it's a little trickier, but it can certainly be done with the proper planning. Scoping, this is what's going to basically allow us to determine how much time and what level of difficulty and cost may be involved in the migration. So basically, obviously, figure out the scoping effort based on the functionality required. At this point, it's important to make sure we do not neglect any mobile porting efforts. And then manage expectations on this milestone with the client again to let the client know exactly when and what to expect. Again, an important milestone in our experience of this process. And then finally, well, almost finally, the actual creation of the pages and possibly the mobile applications as well. So the manual coding, the physical coding, the programmers go at it and create the actual code, HTML, CSS, whatever it takes to do the porting of these social apps. And a very crucial step, installation and testing, installing in a QA environment, testing on all appropriate browsers as needed, testing on all appropriate or necessary mobile devices if needed. Again, not everybody requires mobile. Reviewing the application with clients, making sure that there's proper sign-off. Again, all expectations are properly managed, no surprises. That's really kind of the key phrase here, no surprises. And last process, or last step of this process, rather, adding tabs and pages to our Sprinkler production environment, obviously, so they point back, everything points back to the right areas. And lastly, sync and launch. So that's kind of the final step here, where we move all code to production, finalize the environment there, update all links on all Facebook tab and application links as needed, redirect the existing links to their new hosted areas on Sprinkler URLs, making sure everything is ready to go. And then the last phase, another huddling phase with the client, synchronization with the client. A lot of times you will need to bring the new ported application up at the same time as you bring, obviously, the legacy one down. So there's orchestration involved there and synchronization that needs to be carefully cared for. And that's pretty much it at the end of the day. These are the 8 steps that, in our experience, we've identified as being necessary for proper migration. No matter from where to what, from what to where, but this is really the best approach for us, at least in our experience. So we talked a little bit about advantages. Yes, it's bad that Wildfire will be sunsetted, but other applications will be sunsetted, other tools will be as well. So at the end of the day, a blessing in disguise, it is a blessing in disguise when you have something like this happen and you migrate to a platform like Sprinkler, you don't get another tool. You, at the end of the day, are really embarking on a social enablement platform, a social experience management platform that is truly holistic. And it's no longer specifically about social apps, but it's much wider than that. It's much wider than that across many social contexts and many different business functions. A quick mapping, so to speak, functional mapping, Wildfire to Sprinkler. If you look at what Wildfire supported and still supports for another several months anyway, social landing pages, promotions, and analytics converted directly to Sprinkler via our social apps module, obviously. On the social ads side, the conversion is done to social paid ads on the Sprinkler side. Social messages, what we call social engagement, and social analytics, we call social reporting. So we not only have a one-to-one mapping, but as you can see from the modules on the bottom of the Sprinkler column, much more functionality than just social apps in terms of automation, in terms of integration with CRM systems, publishing, social asset management, which goes to content management, a full-fledged homegrown listening platform, actionable listening platform, mobile capabilities, full governance, command center, and integrations with many different enterprise backend systems already existing. So you don't only get parity migration, but at the end of the day, you really do get much more than just parity. And then some salient features of our own social apps, focusing on that, ready-made templates, not only Facebook, but also deployment to microsite and full mobile support and optimization, geo-targeting, fan gating, analytics, supported via dedicated reporting widgets, support app versioning, scheduled snapshots, and sharing and collaboration, a really interesting and important feature here for design and functionality of social apps. So in a quick nutshell, this was pretty much what we we're eager to share with you. I think we have come to the end of the information we wanted to share on our side. It is now time to open our Q&A session. If you folks have any questions whatsoever, myself and Silky will be happy to do our best to address and answer them. And let's open the floor for that and see if anyone has questions they want to ask. Go ahead. No questions. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, I would like to point out the URL you see at the bottom of the screen, spr.ly/migration checklist. If you go to that link, you will be able to pull down the eight-step checklist that we just discussed, and under PDF format, so you can actually use it as a real checklist. Now, hang on, I see that there is
Jerome, we do have a question now.
Okay. Okay.
So let me start off. We've got one right now from Jacqueline, and she said, "Do you have the ads optimization tool?"
The what optimization tools?
The ads optimization tool.
So
Wildfire previously had one.
App optimization tools. Silky, do you know anything about that? Silky? Ads optimization tool.
Social apps optimization tool. So I think they're referring about creating a mobile optimized version for the app. So yeah, we can do the mobile optimized version for the apps.
Okay. Was that what the question was about, Sarah, you think? Or if the person wants to ads optimization tool. Okay, Elaine wants to know if we can show any of the back end. Right now, during this webinar anyway, we're not going to be doing any product demo. We will have subsequent webinars where we deep dive more into what the backend actually looks like and the production system and everything. But here we're going to stay today relatively high level, so to speak, more on the process side of things and the what to think about and considerations, more so than deep diving into the tool set per se. How long should we expect this entire process to take? So that's a great question. Silky, I think you can probably better answer this because you've done over hundreds of migrations. On the average, if you were to throw out a number, I mean, give me a window, a time window. How long, what's the shortest, fastest you've ever seen? What's the shortest and longest, timeline you've ever seen on a conversion migration process?
Yeah, so actually it all depends on what kind of app it is, whether it needs to be mobile optimized or not. So, but in general, if I say about, minimum, it could be like, say, we can do it in a day itself, or if it depends all upon the app type. So minimum, I'll say it in a day.
Okay. Thank you. And I have another question here. Could you please further explain what you mean by an app? Are you talking about a Facebook contest tab or more like a widget within Sprinklr? Silky, can you address that, please?
Yeah. So when we call it an app, we mean a Facebook page tab app, like the Facebook app.
Okay.
In Sprinklr also, we call it as a template, and internally we have lots of widgets by which we create a template, and that can be installed on Facebook as an app.
Okay. Any further questions? I think we've seen 2 to 4 weeks in general, right? Okay, any further questions? Anybody else have any questions? Comments? Questions? Nope, I think this is it then. Sprinklr.com is where you can certainly all come and contact us, ask any additional questions, request a demo, request a walkthrough, and interface with us and talk to us. Let us know what your needs are, how we can best help you out. And again, spr.ly/migration checklist for that checklist document that we were discussing during this webinar here. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for your time. We're very grateful. Anything we can do to help, come talk to us. Look forward to it. Everybody have a great end of Friday and a great weekend. And thank you for showing up.